Okay, so this took about 20 minutes to prep for, so we took a bit of a break, but we're back. NHL, and we're talking about the 2025 International Tournament, which is going to only have, I think, 4 or 5 teams, if I remember correctly, but still, we're still talking about it because it's interesting. We are going to be projecting Team Canada's roster because why not? I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. Best players in Canada. Usually Canada can come up with a pretty damn good team. This year, me and you, we were talking while we were both putting together our lineups, and we both had issues, I think in slightly different areas, but I think it's almost, you'll see what we mean. Well, we can just say that. I don't know how we want to start this. I don't know if we want to start straight at the top.
We can go
Maybe don't bury
line by line.
I was going to say, maybe don't bury the lead. We should start forwards, line one.
Yeah.
So,
okay, who do you have?
You want me to just list them all off? Probably not player by player.
For line one, yeah. Just say who your line one is.
So, first I want to explain it a little bit. Whenever these tournaments happen, and whenever we've had the Olympics, generally you don't see all of the best players on one line, which makes sense. From a line creating perspective, it makes sense. But then I started thinking, fuck it, we ball. So, with my hockey, with that quote in mind, my top line at left wing, Nathan MacKinnon.
Okay.
At center, we have Connor McDavid. Sorry. Slipped. I nearly named the better Connor. My bad. That's my accident. And then at right wing, Connor Bedard. Which, right wing, I thought that'd be the one interesting one, but I think that's a really fun line for a lot of reasons. The one thing I changed on this line, I originally had Hyman up there, which I know you were making fun of that, but that actually makes sense to me. Because you're putting a sniper like Bedard. Bedard has a hell of a shot. You're putting a sniper like Bedard, a puck carrier like McDavid, and somebody who's as good in front of the net as Hyman is, you're going to have a lot of success. I think that actually would be a really good line. But, as we said, fuck it, we ball, Nathan MacKinnon. So, that's my top line. I don't think you can, talent-wise, necessarily beat that 2025. Maybe you could. Bedard is the one kind of movable one, but you can't name two Canadian forwards probably better than Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon right now.
Yeah. I mean, okay, my top line is pretty similar. I have McDavid at center and Bedard at right wing, the same as you do.
Oh wow, okay.
I'm going with this angle. I'm going a little bit different with the left wing. I did not put MacKinnon there. I didn't put Zach Hyman there. What I did instead is I gave MacKinnon the opportunity to center his own line. So he's going to be on the second line for me.
To be clear, I actually think that's what's going to end up happening. I don't think, especially because logically you wouldn't want to waste two MacKinnon and I'm going to get hate for this. But MacKinnon and Connor McDavid are stylistically two very similar players in what makes them really good, which is their speed and athleticism, which you wouldn't want to waste on one line. I think it would make for really fun hockey. Because imagine McDavid and MacKinnon on a rush. Oh boy. But past the highlights, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. I'm just having fun here.
Yeah, no, I do think that there's almost like a little bit of incentive for the NHL to kind of favor that, like the little bit of, because this 2025 international tournament isn't like, it's not the Olympics. They're not playing for gold. They're kind of just playing to showcase what international hockey looks like again. So I almost think you're right. You're right in saying that
you're putting the three guys with the most highlights in hockey right now on one line.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a good line.
Yeah,
but I'm saying like strategically they'll probably just do something like you said, where combination of Hyman in front of the net, McDavid playmaker, Bedard the sniper, like. Oh yeah, exactly. But that's probably more likely.
You know how Ted Lasso had the believe thing on top of the door? Mine would just say "fuck it, we ball," and it would be it would be lovely.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think they're probably like more incentivized than ever to go just like dream lineups over actual strategy. because of this is kind of a low stakes tournament, which is why I haven't said who my left wing is yet.
Okay,
Because I think this line works the best as a combination of Canada's past, Canada's present, and Canada's future.
I was hoping
With Sidney
you go this
Crosby
way.
on the
yeah.
left wing.
When you
Yeah.
didn't choose
Because
McKinnon,
I
I was really hoping you were going to say that because I really like that line.
I think that is a fantastic line, and I think that I mean, Crosby isn't like prime Crosby, but he's still really, really, really good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that line will be fantastic, and I think it's just the best like story of a line.
Oh,
you know,
God, it'd be so
like
good.
that line headlining the tournament, fantastic.
And can I add on to that as well? That would totally be that it when in 2025 when they make this roster, that will be a photo that is taken.
Yeah,
Like McDavid,
yeah,
you know,
and
if
that
you
will be an iconic photo.
oh yeah, it'll be like seeing Lemieux, Gretzky, and like I'm pretty sure there's a photo of Lemieux, Gretzky, and Gordie Howe. I think there's a photo
Yeah.
of that out there. That's like that, and you
Same
could
kind of thing.
it. I was about to say to a lesser degree, it's legitimately not. These are three legend or Bedard's not a legend. You know what I mean? He's going to be. Like 20 years from now, that photo will be legendary, and I think to the same degree that we look at that Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Mario Lemieux, or at least a similar. I keep wanting to say that though, just because looking back on it, like looking back on the history that Gordie Howe, Gretzky, and Lemieux had, I want to say that, but it's like you can make the argument that that's not going to be the case. There will legitimately be an argument because like the reason I've always said that I almost think that Lemieux's underrated now a little bit with like all time with how many good scorers have come around in the last couple of years. I fully think that Lemieux's one of the greatest scorers of all time, if not the best. I think that the only person Ovi had to beat, truly, like sure he has to beat that Gretzky record, but to be the best scorer, he would have needed to beat Lemieux. I think that's the more interesting thing to me. I think Lemieux's stylistically the best scorer of all time. I think Ovi's beat him now. I think Ovi's got him beat there, but I thought that for a long time. And Gordie Howe's Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey. You can't beat that. And Gretzky's Gretzky. Those are two, which in 30 years we could be saying Bedard's Bedard, McDavid's McDavid, right? So that line's fun. I like that line a lot.
Yep. What do you have for your second line?
This one I don't think you're gonna like, because I have a lot of.
Okay.
Is
there Oilers on there?
There is one singular Oiler, and you could probably guess who.
Okay.
If I was talking lines that would work the best, I want to make it clear I would be swapping Hyman and McKinnon. I already said that. I already said Hyman would be on my top line, but I'd have McKinnon centering this, or maybe I'd have McKinnon on the left wing. No, I'd have him center. So what I have is Hyman on the left wing, for the sake of that I already started what I was going with. Crosby at center. So I still have Crosby playing on a top line. And then Mitch Marner as my right wing.
Yeah. Okay.
Or one of my top lines, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's not too bad. Again, I don't think Hyman is a good enough player to make it there.
I don't
I think
either, but he's like he has a skill that nobody else on this team has, which puts him a lot
I guess. I don't know. I don't think that could have pushed
who
him over
on this
the
team
top.
is better in front of the net?
Like I get your point. I just don't think. I think there are more.
He is
all
the
around
Joe
well-skilled
Pavelski
players.
of this team, Caleb. Every team needs a Joe
guess.
Pavelski. Jamie Benn, like that kind of player, and he's that. So
I guess I don't think it's worth leaving. There's so many talented players. I don't think it's worth leaving out one of them to put Zach Hyman on this team. He didn't make my lineup. Anyways,
I feel like I'm putting him there again to highlight exactly what you just said. Taking away from maybe a more talented to bring in somebody who I actually like Hyman. I feel like we're dissing his skill. He's a skilled player, but there are a lot more skills.
But he's
skilled at different things, and he's on the Oilers.
We're talking about the best 12 forwards that have come out of Canada in the last 15 years. Saying he doesn't make that list is not an insult to how talented he is. Like, you have, like, all of these guys that I put on here are, like, franchise guys. That's what I'm looking for when I'm making this roster. So my roster that I've made, my second line, is pretty similar. So like I said, I had McKinnon centering this line. Just like you, I also had Marner on the right wing. But on the left wing, I had someone who I think I haven't heard a lot about in the last couple of years, maybe, but he is still a very good player, and I think is another one of those kind of like franchise cornerstone guys, is Matthew Barzal.
Yeah, I actually
think
don't.
he
I like
would be
that pick.
fantastic. I think he'd be fantastic on that line. And I think that would match really well.
If I could have picked a 13th forward, I would have said Barzal. And the reason I didn't include him is kind of the same reason why I don't like the idea of putting McKinnon and McDavid on the same line, which is the fact that he is he's another one of those centers who's very athletic and he's a good playmaker, but I feel like we have enough of that, if that makes sense. Like, there's players who, in my opinion, I prefer at that position.
Okay.
And did you have him at winger?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I like him at winger. That's another reason that I didn't include him. Because there's other players I have. You know what? He could have bumped out one. You know what? I'm not mad at it, though. I wouldn't have put him on the second line, but I'm not mad at it. There is one guy even in my lineup where I'm looking at it now. I don't really want to spoil it, but maybe I'll make a note to say that.
Do you want to get into your third line then?
Well, it's not my third; it's my fourth. It'd be my fourth,
okay.
But I'll talk about what I'd change now on my fourth, with thinking a bit more about Barzal. But yeah, we can get into third. I think I like my third line more than I like my second. Truthfully, I think that my third line works really well. I think it's a good checking line. I guess it's fun. It's another fun one. Brad Marchand at left wing.
Ooh, old.
Bold? I don't think that's bold. He's older.
Old.
Oh, I thought you said
old is
bold.
what I said.
Old, but he only has to make another year. You can. I still think he'll be good. And his style, I think will stick around for another year. He's still a good hockey player.
All right.
And then I have Point at center.
Okay.
Mark Stone, right wing.
Oh, our lines are more similar than I thought. Okay. So mine is also Mark Stone, right wing. I have Point not at center, but at left wing, because I have Steven Stamkos up the middle.
Okay.
Who I guess you could make the same argument that he's old, but I put him on that line. I mean, I feel like Stamkos is a little bit more of a star, and it's the chemistry with Point that really.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that.
Obviously, them being teammates.
Yeah,
that's the big reason I put them together.
And
I feel like
that goes in. If we want to talk about fourth lines right off the bat, that helps me out because I think I can talk a little bit now. I'll tell you what I had before and what I would have now if you want to do that.
Okay, sure.
So I have Nick Suzuki at left wing.
Ooh, okay.
Steven Stamkos center. William Nylander right wing. So
Nylander isn't he?
He's Canadian.
Swedish, or does he technically count as Canadian? I feel like he's Swedish.
I'm 90%. I looked him up.
He might be one of those guys that's dual nationality, because I think he was born in Canada, but I think he'd probably play for the Swedes.
Is that right?
He was born in Calgary, but I think he probably would play for the Swedes.
Oh, okay. Well, that actually might help me out even more because my replacement for him was Barzal in this situation. So just walk with me here.
He's a Swede. He's a Swede. He'd play for the Swedes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walk with me here. So right off the bat, looking at it right now, Steven Stamkos has not played a lot of center lately. He has been playing left wing for Point. So right away, I think to move Steven Stamkos out to the winger, looking at my lineup right now. So what I'd do is and I'd also move Point down, because I think you made a really good point on the chemistry there. I wasn't thinking about that for some reason. So I'd move Point down to fourth line, I think. Move Steven Stamkos out to left. Or, yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's 3 centers on the line. They can do whatever. But, I guess put Steven Stamkos on the right. And then have Barzal centering Brad Marchand and Mark Stone. Is what would end up
okay.
with.
Okay.
And I think that's a little better than what I have right now, but I don't hate what I have. Like, even taking
Suzuki
Nylander
Point,
out.
Stamkos, and then Marshall.
Stamkos.
Suzuki Point, Stamkos,
Yeah.
and then you've got Stone, Marchand, and who was your other one?
Barzal.
Barzal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
who do you have for your fourth?
So my fourth is completely different than yours.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Well, the thing is, like,
I have.
there's a lot of players who could be there.
Yeah. I have Mark Scheifele at center.
Yeah,
Who I feel
like that one.
experienced, kind of
Yeah.
veteran guy.
He is another guy who I
deserves to
would
get some shine on the
put in my
national
third
team. Yeah.
In fact,
I have.
I almost think that he makes the team for a similar reason as Hyman, where he's another guy who's very different to a lot of the other centers in the league. He's very balanced, so I feel like he beats out a lot of the other centers that I even have on my team for that reason. So I actually like that pick a lot.
And that feels like a good kind of fourth line skill to have. Like
Yeah.
it's more of that kind of style of play versus the wealth of playmakers you have otherwhere. I also have I have Bo Horvat on the left wing,
I like that one.
who would be kind of
Defensive.
like, I think he's kind of my last guy, but I think
I like
he's had a lot of
the addition
success
of a
last
defensive
season.
forward in there.
yeah, exactly.
I can appreciate that. He is the Patrice Bergeron of your team.
Yeah. And then on the right wing, I have a bit of a younger guy, and this is counting. It's kind of a similar thing for Bedard, except Bedard, you kind of have more confidence that he is going to be this, but this
Okay.
is a little bit more counting on development. He's been great this year. This has kind of been his breakout year, leading a great Kings team, and that's Quinn Byfield. Who
I
I
like
think
that.
I think
That's
this
a good one.
I think this could be
Yeah.
a very interesting introduction to international hockey for him, because with how he's been progressing
Yeah.
and kind of coming into his own, you could see him even higher up in the rankings for 2027, 2028. Like, you could see him
Yeah.
on maybe the top 9, top 6.
You know,
But getting a start out like this, I think, would be great for him, and it
You
could be a
know-
way to see like development on the national side.
I completely agree with you. I don't think he'd make it into the lineup. I think I could see him making the team as like a scratch. I think that'd be a
Okay.
lot more realistic, but I don't hate it either. I think he's a really good player for that fourth line. He's big, which is something that you don't necessarily have a lot of on this team. I mean, just like go through it. Like, a lot of the players sit around like that nice 6'1" that you see a lot of the stars in the league sitting at, 6'1", 6'2". You'll see a couple 6'3s. Marchand's small. Stone, I think, is 6'3", 6'4". He's probably the only other guy out there that I can think of that's even close. Like, you have a pretty small... Both of us have a pretty small lineup. So I actually like that pick a lot. You're adding a power forward to a team that has a lot of finesse to it, and there's no issue with that for me. The only other guy out there is Hyman, who you don't even have. So he's almost like your Hyman replacement. In a weird way.
Pretty much.
Yeah, like...
Pretty much. But I go the younger guy with more potential over Hyman.
And I don't hate it. Like, I think
Yep.
that's a good pick as well. I'm not mad at it at all. There are people out there that would be, but I don't hate it. I agree with you on the potential thing. We can move on to defense. Defense, there's a lot of options, is the main thing I noticed. There's a lot of really good Canadian defensemen right now. And there's the top one isn't.
It's obvious.
It's obvious. Yeah. I think we'll have similar top lines, though. Because
I would
think
not
that-
be shocked.
Yeah. I go Cale Makar, Devin Tays. Right off the bat.
Bingo. I don't. Yep, same.
Yeah, like that one, I mean...
Neil Makar is obvious chemistry with Devin Tays, who's already in the mix. So
Yeah.
why not put them together, right?
Yep. And then after that, I think, honestly, the other four I have, mix and match however you like. I think that they are pretty much
Same.
at the exact same level. I threw in one younger guy, but I still think that younger guy is good enough to be here.
I would not be shocked if we have the same pairings.
Maybe. I don't know. Do you want to just list off the four then? Because I can.
Okay, so
Okay.
you list off your four.
So the order that I have them in, which again, mix and match however you please. Left wing Morrissey, right or not? Left D Morrissey, right D Hamilton, Left D,
Okay.
Riley. Right D, Owen Power.
Never mind. Never mind. Completely different. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Um,
Well, that's what I mean. There's so many
Yeah.
good ones that honestly you can. Owen Power's the young guy that I threw in there. I liked him when
That's
he
fair.
came into the league. I still like him a lot. I think he adds a lot of size, which
think
is
he
something
needs-
this team needs.
I think he needs a couple extra years to make it. I think I could make the same argument you made for Byfield
Yeah,
about Power.
and that's fair. Yeah, I just like it because it adds a bit more size, which I guess Dougie Hamilton does too. But
Yeah. Dougie Hamilton was an interesting one that I like. He would be my seventh guy.
Yeah.
That I almost put on there, and I almost put him on a line with Uyghur, who is in one of
Ooh.
my.
Oh, I
I
like
thought that
one,
would be
actually.
interesting in
Yeah.
terms of.
I
I
like
didn't end
Uyghur.
up doing that. I
Yeah.
didn't end up
That didn't
putting
even
Hamilton and Uyghur
I
together.
I was
just thought
I didn't want to be
I
I
thought
didn't want to
Flames
be
would-
biased. Whenever we do these kind of things, I never try. I want to try my best to not be biased, and also I don't even think Flames really.
Yeah,
So like that didn't even cross my mind, but that is a really good one. I think
Uyghur like
I'd be hard.
completely like non-biased. I think Uyghur is a great pick for.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Putting him in
I could see Uyghur. I could place Uyghur where Power is without much issue.
Yeah.
In my
Okay. I have Uyghur on the third pair in
Yeah,
mind.
so
my,
it'd be the same.
I also have Morrissey, but I have Morrissey instead paired with Evan Bouchard from the Oilers.
I
And
like that
he's
one
kind of
too.
the younger guy in my lineup.
I
And he's been playing great recently.
I was gonna say,
kind of
I've
more
been-
of an offensive defense.
I was gonna say I've been a big fan of Bouchard for a while now. I think he's really really good. I think the Oilers absolutely lucked out with him. I think he's like he complements their style really well as well. I think he'll work really well in a fast paced offense that Canada would be running. So I like that pick a lot. I would have no again. I think that there are like 8 players that you can fit in these 4 slots, and have not a lot of issues for me. He's one of them. for sure.
Yeah. And the last, to just finish that up, the last guy I have who I actually paired with Uyghur instead of Hamilton, honestly, just because like it would feel weird to exclude him just based on the lengthy, storied career that he's had, is Alex Pietrangelo. And I'm looking at a guy like
That's
that, and
another
I'm
guy,
thinking like he may be. I mean, he's not exactly the same guy he was. Like he's a little bit on the older side, but I'm not leaving a guy like Alex Pietrangelo off the list. Like he's
Yep.
been a star defenseman for so long that I
And
felt
he's a
weird
more
moving him off
defensive
the list
guy as
and-
well, which there's less of now, and I feel like that's
Yep.
always needed.
Yep, exactly. I think it kind of balances out. I think we've got my team has got a pretty decent balance of kind of offensive guys with some more defensive guys.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, with defense, it's a total toss-up. I think that top line's pretty damn obvious to me, at least for defense.
Yeah.
For the bottom 4, I seriously think that you could throw 1,000, like probably 10 people in those spots, and it wouldn't matter. At least
It's gonna be tough to see who they choose. It's gonna be
Yeah.
a strict competition. If they're
And-
carrying any extra guys, it's gonna be on defense.
I
think.
almost feel like the hardest choice here is the choice that has the least amount of talent to work with here, which is goalie. And I did
Yeah.
see some articles online about it, about who people would pick. And I was reading through a couple of them to try and get a little bit of wisdom, try and inspire some thought in my brain. And I mean, I ended up going with what a lot of them had, but it was interesting to really think that I'd almost describe it as we are like in the middle of we are in the middle of 2 eras, it feels like, in goaltending, at least in North American goaltending, where we have so many incredible goalie prospects. Like, I think, again, biased, but Dustin Wolf, Devin Levi, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so you're going to have to forgive me, the 2 Wild fans watching. But, I think it's
Gustafson?
Jesper Wallstrid, I think his name is.
Oh, Wall Street. Yeah.
He's the other guy I was thinking of. There's a lot, though. I mean, Gustafson, another great example. Like, there's so much
Yeah,
young
not
goalie
Canadian or
talent.
American, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of really, really young talent right now, and I think we're just waiting for them all to just pop up. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I fully feel
And I mean,
like
we're
in the middle of
seeing
2 eras.
the great goalies of this era are not Canadian. Is the
Yeah,
thing.
that too.
Because you
Yeah.
have like Vasilevsky, Saros, I believe Hellebuck's American, right? Like, all of the great goalies of this era are.
Is he?
He must
Hellebuck.
be. I'm pretty sure
He's
Hellebuck
American.
is
You're right on
American.
that. I don't know how I didn't know that. Huh. For some reason,
I
I
mean,
don't
easy-
know what
easy
I
to-
thought he was, but I didn't think American for some reason.
Easy to think he's Canadian because he plays for a Canadian team, but not the case.
guess.
Like that's kind of would be my.
I don't know what I
yeah,
thought
like
he
there's
was,
not
but
a
he's a weird player where I just didn't think about it, I guess.
yeah. There's a bunch of so for goalies, if we want to get into who we actually picked, it is
Yeah.
slim pickings, and I'm thinking like these are like
I think, if I'm
either
being honest with you,
these are either.
I think we're going to have the same
I'm not
starter.
confident in this.
I think we're going to have the same starter. I think the
tried to be
backup.
different. I tried to be different.
You
I
tried to be different? Okay, I can respect that. I went with the pretty obvious one for my starter.
Okay.
Backup, I went with a younger guy with a lot of potential that I think, if things go
Yeah,
right.
I got three guys in there. So
Okay,
I got a backup
and I could probably give you a third. Like,
yeah.
but my starter is Aiden Hill.
Who do you have as? Okay, so
Shocker.
that is kind of the consensus pick.
Yeah, like it's the
and
most
I
obvious.
respect that, and I think it's good. I get a little bit scared because he's only had one season really. He's been playing great this season, but I get scared by that.
He's fairly young though, and he's been pretty good this year. He had the playoffs last year. He has such a good defense in front of him in Vegas that I have a hard time imagining he's gonna fall off. I don't know.
Yeah,
like it.
I do too, but it just feels like I don't know. Like Team Canada national goalie, there has to be someone better. And I went with someone who has had a bit of a roller coaster of a career. He's been fantastic at points and been terrible at others, but has been playing pretty well this season, and was kind of pegged as Canada's goalie of the future. And that is Carter Hart. And
I like that pick actually. Yeah.
I can see how you can be like Aiden Hill is probably a better goalie right now.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like consistency wise, I went with him. I tried to be different. I think your starting tandem is probably some duo of those two.
Yeah, I think Carter Hart for me would probably be number 3. I number 3 or 4.
Okay.
It totally depends where my number 2 ends up in this entire thing by 2025, because he could be anywhere on this spectrum. But like I said,
Okay, I'm interested to hear who that is.
I think it's not that hard because some people actually have him as their starter. But
I have
I'll-
somebody in mind, but
Devin Levi.
is it Connor? Is it Connor? Oh,
Connor Ingram's a good
Okay.
one too. Well, Devin Levi
That's
has
who
been
my third
so
would be.
good at times, and he's still very, very young. That Buffalo defense
season has not
continues
been
to be-
great.
This defense has not been great, or this season hasn't been great. Sorry, but
yeah.
if he turns it around and has a pretty good next year,
Devin Levi.
I
Devin
can see
Levi
it.
is a guy I could be starting for the team. He's like
I could too.
you know how I said that
Yeah.
Quentin Byfield's going to be
Yeah.
coming into his own. I can see it in like 2027, 2028. Next year feels like a stretch.
Yeah, and it is a stretch. I threw
Connor
him in there
Ingram is a guy
because
who is younger and is having success
But the
now. Like,
difference-
he is propelling that
the
Coyotes
difference between a Quinton Byfield and an Owen Power to this pick to me is there's so much more talent at both the forward and defensive pool than there is at goalie, that I think that if he has one really, really, really good year, it needs to be an excellent year. If he has an elite season, he's in.
team. Okay, yeah, I can see that.
But that's what I meant by.
Because I mean,
his-
that is kind of where we're at with Aiden Hill, right? He's had one, not even a full
Exactly.
elite season.
Well,
and
there
played
you go.
multiple
You hit
things
like
with
exactly
them.
right.
That kind of proves your point, hey? Yeah, if I'm projecting it now and I'm saying like I need to see a lot more, so I don't have him in there right away. But I can absolutely see your point as to where.
I really like
come
the Carter Hart
2025.
pick for similar reasons, where like I could see him bouncing back. I have always liked him. Like I remember
Yeah.
watching him back when he was the Team Canada goalie for the IHF, and I thought he was really good. I still think he has a lot of potential. He has shown that potential at times. He just needs to get back there, and he totally can too. I hope he does. Yeah, I think he's an excellent goalie. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree on all fronts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's. Did you give your backup?
Yeah, my backup would be Aiden Hill, and then I have
Oh, okay. There you
Connor
go.
Ingram as my third. Yeah,
Yeah, Connor Ingram's good too. Yeah, that's another good one. I didn't think of him right off the top of my head, but that is a good example of another one. I think either of these teams would be pretty good, but I think 2027, 2028 is going to be a really, really good Olympics. Or, what is it, World Cup or Olympics that year? I can't
2028.
remember.
Yeah,
Whatever
they're
whatever,
doing.
whatever it ends up being. Whatever they end up doing, I think is going to be really entertaining hockey for the first time in a while. Just because of the Russia stuff sucks because not having some of those KHL players is going to be really unfortunate. I'm interested to see how all that ends up clearing up in the next couple of years. 2025, I don't even think that Russia was one of the teams listed, was it? Probably not.
No, I think it was Sweden and Finland and the U.S. were the other three.
Yeah, I hope that by 2027, 2028, we're at a point where we can start bringing Russia back. But I mean, with how
Just
things
for the
are going
hockey
now,
side of it, yeah.
like with how things are going now, who knows, right? So we'll see what happens there.
that's,
Just for the sake of I've always been more of the I'm big on just sports as a whole expanding, especially hockey, because I love this sport. It's so great, and I think it's so unfortunate that it's so North American centric that when I see teams like this is a good segue actually because this is a story I kind of wanted to tell. I've been working. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but I've been working the Circle K Classic, or what you might have known it as the Max Midget Tournament. It was known a lot more as that for a long time before the rebrand from Max to Circle K. And this year, and I think they were in it last year, but I didn't call last year, there's a Team Hungary. And they have been so fun to watch. And I had to spend quite a bit of time learning how to pronounce their names. But I think the best part about them is the crowd they brought with them. Everywhere. Each and every arena. Like, I called one of their games. There are two arenas we're playing in. They're called Seven Chiefs and Jim Starlight, which is where I did PA for them, and then Max Bell, which is a more famous one. But I recognized a lot of the same fans at Jim Starlight and Seven Chiefs that I did at Max Bell, and they had their own chants. You didn't hear any chants for the rest of the tournament. They had their own chants in like Hungarian, I think. They were like requesting like Hungarian music to be played on the PA. The PA guy actually did it, which I thought was awesome. And like they had their whole thing going. Their home team or their team were like playing into it as well. Like they waved to the fans after every game. It was awesome. I think it's one of the cooler things I've gotten to see. And seeing that especially really like got me thinking about this a lot more. I love the fact that hockey's becoming that kind of thing. Like how we see soccer a lot of the time. In certain places, hockey's becoming like that, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing like even expanding that out further to like the World Juniors going on right now, which we're not going to do a full segment on, but it's cool to see. As much as I'd love to see Canada win as a Canadian, like it's almost cool. Like, this feels like heresy. It's almost cooler to see a team like Sweden beat Canada today. Like it's. To have Canada not be at the top of the hockey world, it shows a little bit more parity.
This year, I'm a closet Slovakia fan.
I think it was them. Was it them or the Czechs who just almost beat the U.S.?
I'm truthfully not very sure, but it's partially because the Flames have a prospect there. Honzek, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's our first round pick. He's playing really well right now. So they're my closet pick. Yeah, they're my closet pick for who I want them to do well. But like, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's always awesome whenever you see because when you see Canada win these tournaments, sure there's a celebration, sure they're happy. But when you see like Finland or like again Slovakia, Czech Republic, you see one of those teams do it. Oh, it's a whole other show, right? Like, because it's such a big deal. Like. It's awesome.
Slovakia is currently undefeated.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're my closet pick. I hope they win. That'd be such a good story. I'm tired of Canada, American, and or America, and what was the other team that kind of jumped in there occasionally? Like Sweden, I guess.
Sweden.
Like Finland won one
Yeah.
back in like 2014, I think, in Calgary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's definitely cool to see, and it's
And there's a lot of
it's really
sports
just
where
great.
it's
the sport.
more obvious, like baseball and soccer especially. That's always been a thing, or at least more recent than the last 20 years ish. But with hockey, it really started with when the Russian players started what's the word defecting over to North America and started playing in
Past the Iron Curtain. Yeah.
past the Iron Curtain. That's the other way to put it. Like when that all started happening, then we started to see a lot more international players. And I think I still stand by what I said. I think the entire thing is awesome.
Yep.